Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of the MCR, Mac and Me. My name's TJ, and just right off the bat, we hope that everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And it's one of the more joyful times of the year. Of course, January and February, you always seem to kind of slug through those 2 months, but
Well,
it is what it is.
you do here in the upper Midwest, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's just, Christmas is over with, and you go through the more brutal months of winter, and spring can't get here quick enough. So, anyways,
Amen.
on to the topic at hand here. Uh, about a week ago, not knowing exactly when this video is going to air, so a week ago from the time that we're now recording this segment, about a week ago, there was a really horrific incident that occurred on the New York subway. I'm sure everyone's heard about it by now. The woman that burned to death. Okay. And I've seen two videos, from two different angles. And I saw them I first saw them on the Gateway Pundit. And these videos are very, for me personally, they were difficult to watch. Okay. Because you're watching a person dying by fire. Okay.
Essentially a human sacrifice.
Yeah. And you watch this stuff and you already know how the story ends, and it's just disturbing. And I have some thoughts about what I saw in the video, but I noticed that a lot of these websites and whatnot were pulling the video because it was that bad. Now, Gateway Pundit initially had the video, and they pulled it, but they kept the link to X. That you could still go and watch it by using the link in the article. You bounce you to X, and then you'd see the video that the Gateway Pundit now, and I'm using them because that's where I'm getting the bulk of my information. Where they pulled the video, and I understand why they pulled the video. I don't fault them for pulling the video, and if you're going to watch the video, just prepare yourself, okay? So a couple things about what I saw in the video. Uh, I didn't, and this goes to the way I felt the media was spinning the victim here, okay? She was a homeless woman asleep, and they kind of hinted that she might have been passed out, given the fact, and they make it sound like multiple empty alcohol bottles were strewn around about her. They were kind of painting the image of a drunk homeless woman passed out. And, I guess that bothered me a little bit. But as I was watching the video, the response of this woman as she was being burned alive, she did not act like say you or I might if we were on fire. She didn't flail. She didn't run. It was she from what I saw in the video, she made no effort to, you hear if your clothes get on fire, drop and roll.
Right.
There was none of this that I saw in the video. She literally just stood there and burned to death. Oh, and as she stood there burning to death, the guy who lit her on fire, first he sat on the bench watching her, then got up, used a shirt or jacket or something to fan the flames to intensify the fire. Also, and and this really, really is unsettling also, I see what appears to be a police officer, and in the one video, he walked from left to right, and then some seconds later, walked left. Okay, when I first watched the video, he walked from right to left, and then a few seconds later, returned left to right. Now, the police were saying they were trying to clear the area so that no one else got injured. But I got to tell you, in the video, it just seemed, and I know 5, 10, 15 seconds can be a really long time when it matters most, but I just didn't see a whole lot of effort by anyone including this police officer trying to put out a woman who's basically burning to death. She's alive, burning to death. Mac, your thoughts so far? Because I'll
Well,
keep yapping here.
it's almost this story is almost unbelievable. I mean, you go and there's a whole lot of different ways to look at it. The media spin, she was surrounded by bottles, which tells me, I mean, I'm not a liquor drinker, but I know you don't sit there and gulp down a bottle like it were Diet Coke. So what did she do? Get on the subway, stay on the subway, and ride it all day because she's got nowhere else to go, and that's the
That's
way you stay.
entirely possible.
I have seen that in Las Vegas. I was on a bus there once, and it was, as it is in Vegas during the summer, hot as hell. And I happened to be standing on the bus, and there was no seats, and I saw this older black gentleman, and he was sitting in a seat. And what caught my eye about him is he was dressed like we would be today here in Michigan. All of his clothes were on him. Then I noticed he had all kinds of stuff with him. So, I put two and two together and think this poor guy scrapes together enough money to get on the bus. He rides it all day until the sun goes down so he doesn't die of exposure.
Yeah.
And that's how he stays alive.
Well, I just got.
Is that what she was doing? I wonder.
Well, I got the feeling, the one media report, and this is not the Gateway Pundit. I saw news video, and I felt like they were just shy of saying if she hadn't have been drunk and passed out, she might have lived. I mean,
well, there's probably truth to that, but the implication, I think, is that, well, that's what you get.
Yeah.
But where was the
compassion
with the guy who was allegedly on drugs and had tussle with a mentally ill man, apparently, that had the tussle with Daniel Penny or Eric Gardner or George Floyd? Why isn't it, if they weren't on drugs, this wouldn't have happened either? Or in some cases, if you weren't a criminal, you wouldn't be in this situation either, because I've never had the police put their knee on my neck because I'm not involved with them.
Yeah. You mentioned Daniel Penny, and a day or two after the incident, I was watching Black Scout Survival, a guy by the name of Jack Richland. I wouldn't tell you I'm a diehard viewer of his YouTube channel, but I always like to see what he's got to say about this or that. And I was kind of curious about his comments on this. And he just blurts out, this is what happens, referencing this woman being set ablaze and dying by fire. And he goes, this is what happens when you don't have a Daniel Penny on the subway, And just last week we were talking about the lack of chivalry, the strong defending the weak, and taking care of your fellow man, and he kind of indirectly, this Jack Richland, Black Scout Survival, kind of says the same thing in that, this is what happens when you put a guy like Daniel Penny through the ringer, and
well, people are already narcissistic and are only thinking of themselves. I mean, when I speak to the younger generation, when I say that, they weren't raised as we were to help other people in times of need. But so you already got that working against us. And then, you know what, if you're going to be a good Samaritan and then get punished for it, I mean, that's why we have the Good Samaritan law here in Michigan for doing CPR and giving life-saving aid to someone. You can't get sued if you're doing it within your ability.
The Gateway Pundit ran kind of a follow-up article some days later, and they admit that they don't know when this particular incident happened, but they referenced an incident, a previous incident in which, and I'll just tell you right now, he looked like a gangbanger in the video, but this guy who appears to be a gangbanger steps onto, because it comes to a stop, so he steps into the subway car with a fire extinguisher in his hand and lets loose with it, and he let loose a good burst. Now I got to tell you that guy, I don't know if he was caught or what, but people can suffocate, they can choke to death. I mean, fire extinguishers, oxygen is one of the reasons the fire burns, along
Right.
with fuel, we'll say. But, fire
Fuel and heat.
extinguishers, you know, eliminate oxygen. And people, in that type of confined space, doing something like that with a fire extinguisher has the potential of possibly seriously harming someone, if not choking them to death.
Well,
You
if you have
know?
someone on there who's got CPOD, I mean, respiratory disorders,
Oh, asthma.
asthma, for
You
instance,
know,
yeah, they could be in some serious trouble.
and and I guess the gist of the article when they were showing this video was, well, this is why they didn't have fire extinguishers on the subway to put this woman out, because one of the things was, well, they had no way of putting her out, putting out the fire. Okay. And and this is why there's no fire extinguishers on the subway car, because people grab them and turn them on each other.
Well, you
You know
you
what?
know, as you know, if you hit someone with a fire extinguisher, you could kill them very easily.
Oh yeah, them things, yeah. It's especially, when it's full, that thing's solid and heavy. But so goes life in the jungle, I would tell
Well,
you.
we
You know,
can't do right because of the wrong. They're going to let these people get on bail and or not put them on bail, rather let them go.
the guy was an
Maybe
illegal alien too,
maybe
the one who
prosecute
set the
them,
woman
maybe
on
not.
fire.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
Donald Trump, and he's been mocked for it, saying, "Hey, they're emptying out their mental institutions and their prisons, and they're sending these people here. They don't want them in their country, but we
and
love them in this country. We want them here, setting our citizens on fire,
oh yeah,
whether they be alleged drunks or homeless or not. Just hey, you know what? It's all about diversity, man."
well, and then just a couple days later, 2 3 days later, again on a New York City subway, uh, this guy he slashes two people, a 42-year-old man and a 26-year-old woman. And the 26-year-old woman, she goes, she says, and they have it in quotes, so I'm assuming this was her statement. No one called 911. No one in Grand Central called 911. Basically, no one helped. Here she is, and I think she got stabbed in the neck. Okay. I believe, and I don't have it here, but I think her wound was to the neck. And so she's bleeding from the neck. No one's calling 911. But you know what? Aside from the fact there was no Daniel Penny, I'm going to say, okay. Aside from the fact that there was no Daniel Penny, no one would even bother to take their phone and call 911. I just, you know what? Life in the big city, and this is what you get when you let George Soros put the Alvin Braggs in place, and you know, like I said, life in the
Well,
jungle.
you're living in a city where they're cheering on the murder of a CEO.
Oh yeah,
So I
big
mean, why
time,
why would you expect anything different?
big time, big time. Uh, so that's all I got from this one. You know, just gosh. And let's just throw the gun issue into this. You can't own a gun, you can't carry a gun. You have no means of self defense in that city. You're at the mercy of these
Criminals,
animals. Okay, of course,
right?
when Trump called them animals or whatever, oh, he was a racist and this and that and blah
Right.
blah 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 blah. It just
Hollow words from superficial people.
why does anyone even want to live in New York City nowadays is beyond me. I don't get it. Um, well, you know what? New York lost 3 electoral votes. That's what's happening. We talked about that a few months ago or a few weeks ago.
Right.
So, I guess that's just the way it goes. Maybe they'll lose another two. And I listen to Dan Bongino a lot, and he says nothing's going to change until it gets bad enough. Well, watching a woman burn to death, you know, if that ain't bad enough, I'm not so sure anything ever will be bad enough. But it's just the video was horrible, and I have no solutions to this other than stay the hell out of Dodge. There, you
Right.
know. So
Because
that's all I got.
there is no Matt Dillon going to come to save you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's all I got for this segment. You got anything else there, Mac?
No.
All right, we'll call this one a wrap, and you know, be responsible over the new year, over the New Year holiday. Don't get yourself in any trouble, because if you do, you'll never get a CPL, at least here in Michigan. You know, so that's it for now, and we'll catch you in the next segment. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.